Yes, Ed. Did you like?
Ed Emery from Missouri, and I guess one of the things as a legislator that has begun to concern me through the years that I've served is this term level playing field. My experience is that the people seeking a level playing field either are competitively disadvantaged and they want an advantage, or they want the disadvantage, they want government to fix it instead of fixing it themselves, or they're looking for an advantage, a competitive advantage. Because when I look at the free market, and I very much believe in the free market, the whole point of the free market is doing everything I can as a competitor to unlevel the playing field. I mean, that's my point, is I want it all tilted my way, and that's how I win, is if I figure out a way so that I can tilt things in my direction, whether it's marketing, whether it's innovation, whatever it is. So that worries me, and I guess I'm always, when I hear that, I want to know, well, what exactly is envisioned by this level playing field. Something that kind of goes along with that, I guess, is the idea of certainty, because absolutely, certainty is good for business. Typically, the way business gets certainty with government is if government has no involvement. I mean, that's the most certain government certainty. That's the best certainty for business, is if government is not involved at all, and that's not ever going to happen completely here. But I think we need to always distinguish the difference between certainty and management. There's one of the ways to get what some people would call certainty is just absolute management. Just take it over, manage it all. You set all the rules. And the other thing that to me seems like we should consider anytime we're looking at a regulatory model is, where have we seen success? What can we look at that demonstrates that there are some models that work better than others. And the one that works better than anything I have seen in my lifetime is the cell phone industry. If we're going to have rules, consistency in rules, let's look at them and say, well, all right, let's use the kind of rules, the kind of perspective on rules that we have in that industry, because, it's just going crazy, and it's also very interrelated to the broadband issue. So what's wrong with looking to something like that and basing it on a successful model rather than on a manipulated, centrally planned model, where somebody says, I see some problems here and I know how to fix them, and we're going to have some central planners come in and manage those? I'm just wondering why we would move to the centrally planned model versus the cell phone type model.
We're right at the cusp of having fairly high-speed mobile broadband providers out there, and a lot of substitution, even potential substitution between wired connections and wireless connections, as we've seen with cell phones, right? With an increasing percentage of households getting rid of their wired phone and using a cell phone for everything, which is fine, and as the broadband markets, become more substitutable, particularly for this will happen more for like the middle to lower income households, as opposed to for the business markets. That it seems that if government's going to have regulation, that it ought to be the same, essentially the same rules of the road, for all those competitors. Wireless it's not terribly different, but they have somewhat more, in a sense, somewhat more leeway than the wired world, in part because they're still under, it's such a new industry that they're still under, in a sense, some what you might call infant industry benefits. So they have, instead of digging pipes, right, they have spectrum, airwaves from the government under license, which gives them, certain advantages. And then they also have not been yet subject to some of the neutrality rules, most notably the Carter phone rule, which is the one that would allow you, that I mentioned earlier, where you're allowed to attach any PC to your wired network, but you can't necessarily attach, any smartphone or any cell phone to the wireless network. And aside from just competitive neutrality, you might say, I think we've also seen that the Carter phone consumer choice rule has had just, enormous benefits for the economy and society over the past 20 years. In fact, the chairman of the FCC even mentioned that as probably an example of one of the most effective pro-competitive regulations that was ever adopted.
Dr. Atkinson.
Well, I don't have a lot to say about that. I think one of the things on the issue of a level playing field people talk about is, well, if the ISP lets somebody buy prioritization, then it's unlevel for the smaller company that can't do it. But in a lot of ways, we don't have that's not all that different today. If you look at how bits move across the network, if you go to a big company like I don't know, Disney or ESPN or something, and you wanted to get some video, you're going to get that video pretty close to your house, essentially. They do what they call caching. So they'll take the most common videos and they'll store them on a server relatively near where your ISP is, so you get them very, very quickly. If you're going to a small company that doesn't have the money or the ability to do caching, to buy, and caching, by the way, is quite a competitive industry, you're going to have to go all the way across the country through multiple what are called hops, and you'll get a little bit of delay. So ESPN has an advantage. It's an unlevel playing field. It's an unlevel playing field, though, in an open market. So I think the key there, though, really, is to just make sure that, for example, our position is that an ISP that wants to give wants to prioritize ESPN or something like that, they should have to prioritize everybody if they come with the same deal. So if ESPN comes and says, we're going to give you a deal, we want to buy this, and then somebody else comes with NBA Networks wants the same deal, they should be able to do that. I don't know that we need rules about that or not now, but that could be an area where you might have a problem. But I don't see that we have a problem there now.
Well, fantastic. Thank you both. If we would show our appreciation. As well as my appreciation to all the members that are here today. This is a very complex issue. It requires a great deal amount of time and effort to get into the details. So the fact that you're here learning this, taking it back to your states is of great importance. Again, the speakers taking their time, and to have the FCC commissioner here today, I thought goes a long way to helping all of us as public officials to understand that. So thank you. We have a lunch at 12:30, and with that, we're done. Thank you.